Yeah, you are recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for participating today and for your service. Couple quick questions, quick yes/no questions, just to sort of calibrate the conversation, because as I entered the hearing midstream, I was coming from Judiciary Committee. I heard a whole lot of rhetoric. So, first, is it lawful for someone to seek asylum in the United States? Yes or no?
Yes.
Are there processes and procedures in place to consider requests for asylum? Yes or no?
Yes.
And as these requests for asylum are processed by the appropriate agencies, determination is some combination of approvals and denials. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Just I think important for those watching at home to kind of put the conversation and issues raised in this hearing in the proper context. Now, I did want to follow up on something that Senator Hawley raised, a question about safe third countries. It's my understanding that during the Trump administration, they never sent anyone back to El Salvador or to Honduras. And indeed, less than 1,000 migrants were sent to Guatemala. So it doesn't seem like these so-called safe third country agreements were really used by the Trump administration. Agree or disagree? Or maybe you can verify the numbers.
Senator, I'd have to get back to you with respect to the data, which I don't have before me this morning.
Okay. That would be helpful. Appreciate that. Now, did want to raise a question about collaboration between the department and non-governmental organizations. I'm hearing from a lot of advocates and service providers in California that more communication and coordination would be helpful between DHS and the NGOs that are efficiently and safely providing service for immigrant families. Oftentimes, migrants are sent to areas of the country where shelters are already at capacity, though, and the department is not sufficiently drawing upon resources in other regions of the country where providers have more capacity to continue to meet their needs. Can you discuss any DHS efforts to improve communication and coordination with NGO service providers and how the department takes NGO feedback into consideration when making operational decisions?
Thank you, Senator. So we work very closely with non-governmental organizations to address the asylees, the individuals who make asylum claims under United States law, to ensure that they are sheltered appropriately and that the COVID-19 health and safety protocols are administered in partnership with us and pursuant to an architecture of reimbursement that we work with the state and local officials on. Early on, we heard the very same concerns that you referenced this morning, that there was challenges with respect to the lines of communication. And so we addressed those, and we think we've made tremendous strides with the non-governmental organizations in improving the lines of communication. That's not to say that everything works perfectly. The process is difficult, but when we learn of a shortcoming, we address it not only with respect to that particular relationship, but we take a look at whether there's any systemic improvements that we can institute. And so we're very proactive as well as reactive in improving and strengthening the communication lines with the non-governmental organizations. They're critical partners in this.
Yeah, no, look forward to following up with you on this as well. Look, as a proud representative of California, I know there's a number of local governments, in addition to NGOs, particularly in Southern California, that have stepped up to try to be partners during this very unique time period. And, you know, some of the goodwill and well-intentioned gestures have meant facilities are near or at, maybe slightly beyond capacity, given traditional occupancy limits, COVID protocols, et cetera, yet other parts of the country, NGOs with capacity and experience, separate and apart from the funding question, are willing to be more helpful than I think DHS has taken them up on. So want to follow up with your team to share that information.
I look forward to that because we do work, of course, in close partnership with the Department of Health and Human Services. We look at the landscape of non-governmental organizations across the country, in the border area, I should say, and seek to place the families, the children, in the shelters where the capacity is greatest. It's a multifaceted analysis.
I know there's multiple factors that are considered. I do want to touch on what I think is an encouraging trend. I was glad to hear this week that the department has decreased the amount of time that children spend in Border Patrol custody. As you recall, in March, there were more than 5,000 children who were in Border Patrol custody specifically, each spending an average 115 hours in Border Patrol facilities. But as of this last Tuesday, I understand there's 455 children in Border Patrol custody, each spending an average of 28 hours in those facilities. That's a dramatic decrease in both the number of children in custody and the time spent in Border Patrol custody. Decreasing the time that migrants are in Border Patrol custody should be a top priority, especially for migrant children who are better cared for by far by HHS. Can you just discuss some of the steps that the department and Border Patrol specifically have taken to decrease the time unaccompanied children are spending in Border Patrol custody and how we anticipate the time further going down going forward?
Thank you very much, Senator. I must really emphasize the extraordinary work of the United States Border Patrol, the men and women of the Border Patrol. Many of them are fathers and mothers who understand the plight of the children in whose care the children were in the care of these heroic law enforcement officers. First, we deployed FEMA to assist HHS in increasing the number of shelters and intake facilities that it had, so that we had places to move the children. Then we started delivering operational efficiencies, reducing the time that it took to actually place the child in those facilities. And now we're very focused on reducing the time, not at the expense of quality, reducing the time between the HHS facility and the placement of the child with a relative or legal guardian here in the U.S. So it's shelter capacity, care capacity, process efficiency are three critical components of what we've delivered to achieve the dramatic results that you've noted.
And thank you, Senator Padilla. The chair now recognizes Senator